Hi, and welcome to another episode of A Walk to Remember. My name is Dwayne Baker-Henderson, and as always, I'll be your host as we explore some of the truths and the myths surrounding postpartum depression. As well, hopefully we'll give you some tips that can help you or someone else through their journey with postpartum depression a little bit easier. Now, last week we talked about the power of two, having another person in your life with whom you can share how you're feeling and your thoughts and all the other stuff you're carrying around with you during your postpartum journey without feeling you're going to be judged or that that information is going to get out to other people. And this week I want to talk about something equally as powerful, and that is perspective. Now, when we're kids, perspective is created through the experiences provided by a lot of other people, through our parents, through our schools, through our friends, through just our environmental stuff. And those perspectives that are created change the way that we see our world, so how we actually experience our world. So it's kind of a cyclical process of perspective and experience going back and forth. As we get a little bit older, we have the opportunity to go out and find new perspectives on purpose, whether it be through traveling or reading from different authors or listening to different speakers or just thinking about what's going on with us and reevaluating what we've believed and what our expectations have been. And that can be quite powerful when you are under duress and stress, like what comes along with postpartum depression. Quite often we take those instances where we're being challenged, and we filter them through the perspectives that we have at that time. And that can help you, to feel like you're being a victim or you're feeling isolated or anything like that. Lots of negative stuff comes along with our old perspectives trying to fit new experiences into it sometimes. And we have the opportunity as adults to try and change those perspectives so that we can see our situation a little bit differently. I have a graphic here that shows the two processes kind of side by side. The first one is the typical one that people go through where experience dictates their perspective. And this is just the natural process. And then when you actually go out in search of new perspectives, it puts in a new step in that process. As you can see, there's the perspective adjustment that I have there down at the bottom. That is where you intentionally find a new perspective. You go to a different place to learn something new about a culture or an experience you're having, or you read another book, or you listen to a speaker, or you see a really impactful movie, something like that does change your perspective, not based on your own personal experiences necessarily, but through some kind of external stimuli, let's say. And that in turn leads to a new perspective, which you can use to then filter your experiences through. And this is quite valuable. Like I said, when you're going through something that is very stressful, we can always adjust our perspective. There's always something that we're not seeing in what we're going through. It's difficult to take a step back and look at your experience with different eyes than the ones that you already have. So it's really important to take that opportunity to look for new experiences, meet new people who are going through stuff that's similar to what you're going through, so that you can learn from their experiences and read books that are based on your current challenges. Or watch videos like this that can also help you change your perspective. All of that can be quite powerful in changing that cycle of experience and perspective, and how it affects how you see your life. Now, with this, there comes some challenges. It's difficult sometimes to remove a perspective or change a perspective that's been there for a long time. And I can give you a couple of examples of how my perspectives have changed based on a couple of different things. The first comes from an experience that Corey and I had many, many years ago. When we had been married about 5 years, we decided that we were ready to start having kids, which is kind of funny because you're never really ready. But in this instance, we decided that was the time. And unfortunately, it didn't happen right away. We had 2 unsuccessful pregnancies. The first one very fast. The second one was much more difficult. It was something called a molar pregnancy. I won't go into what that is. You can Google it if you want to. But it was a very, very difficult pregnancy with lots of ultrasounds and lots of doctor intervention and lots of yucky things that happened during that time. And one of the most profound things that happened for me was at an ultrasound one time when Corey was allowed into the room to have the ultrasound, but they wouldn't let me in. It was standard practice at that place to not let the partners in, just have the mother, the expectant mother, to come in and have the ultrasound. And so I was forced to stay outside. And it wasn't until about 15 minutes after Corey had gotten the results from the ultrasound, which in fact stated that our baby had passed away, basically, that they allowed me into this room. And Corey was crying, and she was really stressed, and she reached out and took my hand and gave me a hug and told me what had happened. And I was really angry that I hadn't been allowed to be in there. And that really changed my perspective of the medical field and the field of ultrasound activities, things like that, to where I really didn't like those people. And I projected that onto every other medical professional or support professional that I came across. And it wasn't until later in Corey's pregnancy with Graham that we encountered a man named Grant who did ultrasounds at a hospital in our local area. Corey was working on a documentary at that time about pregnancy and adopting, and agreed to have an ultrasound taken for footage. And this man, Grant, was amazing, and he totally changed my perspective on the medical staff, basically. He was very inviting. He told us exactly what was going on, what we were seeing. And I don't know if he was supposed to or not, but he did, and encouraged me to come and look at everything. It was great. And so just that one little bit of experience really changed my perspective. And it wasn't until this experience later on that perspective had changed. Now, I didn't do that intentionally, but I did intentionally change the way I was thinking about medical people, basically. It had put a sour taste in my mouth previously, and I intentionally changed that perspective. Another example of this is something that happened a few days ago. There's a gas station very close to my house, and built into that gas station, there is a very popular Canadian coffee shop and donut shop. And in the parking lot of that gas station coffee shop combo, quite often there's a very ragged-looking man who is in a wheelchair who sits by the exit of the parking lot in his wheelchair. And he's there quite frequently. And a little while ago, I was filling up with gas at the gas station, and I drove past him on the way out. And I figured I was going to offer him a drink or something to eat or something, because it was cold and he'd been out there quite a bit, and I didn't know what he was doing. And as I pulled up in front of him, I saw that he had a sign that said, "Everything is going to be okay. Have a great day." And it was really weird. I was expecting him to have some other kind of message on there, asking for money, asking for something. I wasn't sure. But I rolled down my window and I asked him if I could get him a drink or something to eat. And he said, "No, I'm just here to lighten the world." And from that, I got a very different perspective of first impressions, basically. And how some things that we see don't necessarily match up with what we are looking at. And from that experience, I've since gone on to talk to several other people who are on the street and intentionally find out what's happening with them and whether I can help them or not. It's happened a couple of times now in the last little while. And it's really changed my perspective just based on that one experience, and then going out intentionally to find out about some people. And that's been really profound for me. Just understanding that what I see isn't necessarily what is real. And I think that's true with our experiences with postpartum depression as well. Corey and my experiences were similar if you looked at them from the outside, as far as our family going through postpartum depression. But based on our previous experiences, our perspective on what was happening was quite different. And we've had lots of opportunity to discuss what we experienced and what we got out of it and what we actually thought was happening since that time. And it's really helped us to kind of filter what we were thinking about that experience and come to some different conclusions about what it was and what it was all about and what we were actually experiencing. So I encourage you to do the same. Whether it be listening to other people talking, or more of my videos, or reading a book, or talking to other people who are going through the same thing, do that, and you might find that your perspective on your situation changes quite a bit. So I'll encourage you to do that. There's my phone ringing. So that's all I wanted to talk about today, perspective and the power of it. If you liked the video, please give it a like. Put your comments in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you have to say, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.